Here's what I learned last week. When you're trying to produce a module on grief and fear and loss, and you're in grief and fear and loss, it's really hard to output what you're trying to do when you're in it. And I learned this from one of my greatest mentors. Danielle Laporte is an author from Vancouver, and she did a talk one time on why not to write about the work and teach the work when you're in the work. And it made a lot of sense to me, and it makes a lot of sense to me. So I scrapped what I was producing and I decided to come on here a little more real, a little more raw, and talk about this idea of no rain, no flowers. So, unless we walk through the hard stuff in life, the stuff that asks us to work on letting go, the stuff that asks us to work on acceptance, the stuff that asks us to work on defining miracles as these things we cannot explain or describe, but they happened and they're really big, they're big impacts in our life. We don't always think about grief and loss being things like not being happy in our career, not being happy in our relationship. One of my greatest mentors, Beth Henry, she was a peer support counselor at Momentum when I was there doing some startup self employment coaching. And my sons were really young, like babies. And I had two under two. So it was a very hard and complicated time for me when I thought motherhood was going to be what sold to me in commercials and sold to me in ads and this happy, joyous time. And I wasn't there. I was actually in a place of shock and anger that it felt the way it felt because none of it felt like I wanted it to feel. It was harder than I thought. It was sad all the time. It was really, really lonely and it was really, really hard. And those are things that weren't talked about very often by a lot of people was the reality. So there's this grieving of this dream. And this is what Beth Henry taught me, death of a dream. That grief sometimes is this death of a dream. So we've got these 5 stages of grief locked in as theories, come through therapists, psychologists, counselors, doctors, and it's great work. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross did her PhD. She wrote these 5 stages where we really go from denial to anger to bargaining to depression and then acceptance. And the truth is, they can come in any order. And the truth is that it's a theory that was applied to when people were dying. And the work and the theories have been adapted thereafter. But there is some more input, and I'm going to put a attachment in the courses over in summer school that are about how grief feels to me. So it doesn't really follow this linear process. What I've had to learn in my life is it's all over the place and it can be all over the place and it can onset at any time. For me, it's been really recently losing my father. So his birthday would be this week. He'd be 70 years old. And it was a hard week for me last week to pull through this anticipation of celebrating him being gone, and I just couldn't show up how I wanted to show up. So I took my own work, I took my own advice, I rerouted in my values, I got outside a lot. The last few days I went for a walk with a really good friend last night, and we talked about things like patience and faith and emotions and being in the process. So, for each of you, I hope you have those people that you can call in when you find yourself at these stages of denial or bargaining that you didn't want this to happen, or the straight up depression and sadness that comes with grief because it's hard and it's sad and it's something's gone. So either an idea is gone, you didn't get the job you wanted, or you feel stuck in a career and the relationship's not what you want it to be, you feel like you're settling, or you just feel unworthy from being somebody who deserves a really healthy relationship, a really healthy partnership, a really strong values aligned career in life. We all can have that if we choose to do the work to be on the bridge, I call it, from here to there to get to where we want to go. It's hard. It's really hard work. Sometimes it makes us have to polish off those rough edges, which is the other video in this module, that sometimes we become irritable, we become resistant, we become angry, we become um, in our own rebellion or denial about what needs to be done. And then we start lying to ourselves that it's something that's not possible or attainable. And this stuff is possible and it is attainable. So coming through grief and fear and loss and being in it and accepting this is going to happen over and over and over again in your life moving forward, that you need some tools in your toolbox and some stuff we have in the Knowings workbook to be able to walk with you through this time. So, some of the things that we have to get to a place of is being able to accept that this is happening. And we also have to realize that we need to take like a bird's eye view of where we're at to see what's not working for us and where we want to change. In the worksheets, and in this one specifically, it's got these questions. And in the nest, we confront the lies we tell ourselves and engaged in an honest dialogue with our inner selves. What are you listening to? Where does it come from? Who does it come from? What are you lying to yourself about? And what are you telling yourself from a logical place that doesn't meet the intuitive part of yourself? These are deep questions. We're going to talk about those on the calls this week. We're also going to dive into the 3 lies that we tell ourselves, which is part of the workbook work in this module for the third part on fear, loss, and death of a dream, really. If you want to dive deeper into this, come over to Summer School. There's a link below, and you can join at any time and access some of the small groups, the workshops coming up, and this workbook to dive into your own work around where you're at, where you thought you should be, what you think you should be doing, and then be on that bridge to find the middle in between of just accepting where you're at right now. Grieve what you wanted or what you thought would be true so you can move on to the life that's actually waiting for you, which is your knowings. Your knowings know. You know what you are being called to do right now, being called to teach, being called to let go, or being called to be more of. The clients I worked with this week, it was just a lot of talk on being, getting out of doing, be that diving into religious or holy books and studying instead of being out living and attracting, being deep in prayer, asking, but forgetting about the meditation side, which is listening, and being in a place of just self pity, wallowing. Why not me? Why not me? Carl, my cat, asks that all the time. But this is for you. Walking through this work, strengthening in this place, and being able to tell yourself the truth and getting into the truth of your own nest. So I hope you'll join us over in Summer School or connect with me for one-on-one work around this topic.